I felt it was important to tell you a little bit about why I started all this, why I want to speak, why I want this group, and maybe some help that I think I can offer. And to help with that, I think you should know my story. So when I was 9 or 10 years old, I remember something that happened because it scarred me. This event scarred me, okay? So let me tell you about it. I was leaving gym class and we had just played dodgeball. Loved dodgeball. I was starting to get good at sports. People were starting to notice that I was good at sports. And I started to care that my friends were noticing that I was good at sports. So in this defining moment, I was starting to care about those things, right? Now after we left this game of dodgeball, my friends were leaving. We were walking up this ramp out of class. I remember it as if it were yesterday. And my friends were laughing hard about something. I said, well, what's the deal? I want to be involved. And I asked them what was so funny. And they looked at me and they told me to raise my arms. So I did. And I discovered that I had extremely sweaty armpits. And you might think, well, what's the big deal? You just played a game of dodgeball. Of course you're going to have sweaty armpits. But I was 9 or 10 years old, not quite understanding how the body works, and it must have been a lot more than others because otherwise they wouldn't have laughed so hard about it. So this time when I was caring what my friends were thinking and learning a lot about myself, this effect of my friends laughing at me really scarred me. I felt ashamed, embarrassed, and when my friends said things like "ew" and "disgusting," I started to think that I was gross, that I was disgusting, that there was something wrong with me and therefore people didn't want to be with me. Then you could still think, okay, that was a long time ago, man. It was like 20 years ago. What's the big deal now? Well, it surely did affect me for about 20 years because it's something called hyperhidrosis, excessive underarm sweat. Just something I deal with. And it turns out that a lot of people deal with it. But it affects people emotionally pretty hard. It affects how I dress, how I react with some people, even to the point where a close friend of mine said, "You keep people at arm's length." I said, "Yeah, this is true," because I want it to seem like when people think of Ben, they think positive things. Ben's good at sports, music, work, church, whatever he does, he's good at. I like them to think this because if they get any closer than arm's length, they might discover something that I don't control and that I'm not very proud of. So as you hear that story, I hope you can relate a little bit as far as what I felt. Maybe you felt that way. Maybe your specific story is a little bit different, but think of a time that you felt embarrassed, ashamed, disgusted, or disgusting, I should say. And maybe that something's wrong with you and how it affects you. I hid this from people for 20 years, okay? I didn't want people to know about it. And it wasn't until I actually spoke to a therapist about it that he helped me work through it. Now, what I want to do, and why I feel it's so important to be a speaker and to share this message with people, is because I was a person who people probably looked at and thought nothing was wrong with him. Absolutely nothing. He has everything figured out. He's an example. I'll look up to him. I'll follow him. Everything's great. And yeah, I tried to make it so, but deep down, everything wasn't. And I tried to cope with what I call emotional pain in unhealthy ways. So I started to think, well, if a person like me went through something like this, and I have now seen the light, as it were, I'm sure there's somebody else out there that also feels this way. And I'm going to dedicate my full-time abilities to help people like this. So I became a speaker and I created this group for that purpose. I'm a young adult and I relate with young adults, and I feel like a lot of young adults go through this. And I want to have these conversations with them so they can feel comfortable in opening up with whatever they're dealing with. They can understand that they're not the problem. You who are watching this, you are not the problem with whatever you're going through. If you want to talk to somebody about it, whether it's me or somebody, I encourage you to take that leap of faith and tell somebody about it. It is scary because you think, well, I've hidden this for 20 years because I know what the reactions are going to happen. Or I just don't want people to know. I don't know what they'll think. Or even in this time of the virus and the earthquakes and everything else going on, maybe we think, oh, people have plenty of other things to worry about. They don't want to hear about my problems. They don't have time for my problems. I don't want to be a problem. Well, guess what? A cool thing about humans is we long for connection. When we know that somebody else is dealing with something, not only will we possibly think, hey, I'm dealing with that same thing, let's support one another, but at minimum, we'll think, wow, we all go through something, and now we can relate. And I'm telling you, from experience, both mine and from talking to people, you will be a support to one another. So that's what I'm all about. If you're going through something, I'd love to help. If you want to talk one-on-one, that's what I do. I'm actually a life coach as well as a speaker. So I do sessions where we just talk about stuff. If you're dealing with something, I'll help you work through it. If you don't want to talk about the past and you just want to say, hey, let's talk about self-improvement, how can I build my dreams? Well, I do that too. And I've always been a pretty, what would I say, driven kind of guy. Tried to be successful in a lot of things, like I said. But once I started to really open up and connect with people, because I took the time to deal with my emotional pain, I opened up with a therapist, my parents, and I realized that, oh my goodness, people still love me even though there's something about me and I'm not the problem anymore. Now I start to move forward with a lot more gumption, a lot more ability and desire to actually open up and connect with people. So that's what I hope I can help you with, whether in this time or in the future. But so feel free to reach out to me, live or through the group or wherever. I'd love to help you through. So anyway, hope you have a good day.